Seax. Normalised, so he's nice and soft. Got to do a bit more forging, just bevels, nothing too big today. Get this thing started and we'll do a bit of explaining. Not that there's really much needs to be explaining, with hammering at an edge. Gas, we can focus this. I love those fucking bricks, they're so amazing. Basically, all we need to do, hammer this lower kind of inch and a half, thereabouts. Just draw it down. And I don't need to, but it'll make grinding like the edge and the platform, like profiling and that, it'll make it a bit easier. Less to take off means less work on the belts. Plus it's forging, it's kind of the job. Right up. Go away! No, don't go. Should be able to get away with that. The best thing doing edge profiles or bevels, we just need the small one. Don't need nothing big. The bigger the hammer, the bigger the problem we get.
Oi! Shut up! Fuck's sake! You heard it enough? Shut up! Oi! Fuck!
God damn. I think I was fucking attacking him with it. Fucking hell. Stupid doggy. I love the nut, but fuck, he's an idiot. That's getting up to heat. We'll throw this back in. Yes, I left the end on why, because we need to grab onto it somehow. Well, my flat tongs, not bad, but they're not really the greatest. Close that up for the moment. We'll do the front part and we'll move our way down. Although we're going to have to do it in sections, so. Coming out of that thing works like a little fucking exhaust pipe, like a rocket engine, just focuses everything. Not that the camera can really see anything, but it is shooting out there. Blade is 6 centimeters, 60 mil. So we'll go for 30 mil bevel. We'll hammer to that line, and actually we'll do it 25 mil, and then we can draw it back so we get a nice clean line on the grinder. Stepstone, there we go. Seed everywhere. Does wonders for sound deadening, but holy shit, it fucking gets everywhere. Log on, because it should be far enough away that we're not going to burn ourselves. And fuck, I've sliced it again. Really need another set of gloves. For that, really. Fucking music on. Listen along with me if you want. Just grab a random Spotify playlist or some shit, or you'll listen to fucking whales or some shit while you're doing it. So I'm not the most entertaining of people, that's for sure. Especially doing this raw footage kind of stuff. That's why I've been doing those short form, kind of 20-minute, 30-minute clips. That way you can get a condensed form of it. I think it's important to show the whole process, start to finish though, so... Oh, Billy Joel, yes. I will take Billy Joel. No, why did you do that? It's Billy Joel, baby. Nice and orange there. We want to be taking it. Probably should have done this beforehand, but that there is going to be a bevel. Not exactly, but it'll be there, and then we'll draw it up from that. It's easier to draw something back than it is to add onto it, especially on a belt grinder. That's impossible. I mean, I haven't figured out the magical trick to do that yet, but I'm sure someone out there has. Ooh, that fucking heat coming out of that brick. See there, straight away it's already started to warp this nice line I had. That's going to be a problem the whole time, and you probably see there might get a slight kind of curve going on. We're only camera on one side. Well, this stays essentially still. We're stretching this one side, so one side's getting longer, and we're not hammering here, no stress, so it will curve ever so slightly. But we should be able to fix that over the horn. It's more the fact of just getting a slight bevel on this. That's all we really want to do, is just pinch it down just ever so slightly. Just got to be careful not to do it too much. If you don't want something that wobbles the whole way down, we want to keep our edge straight and flat as possible. So we can always grind it flat as in a profile of the blade, like lengthwise, but getting where that's our blade there, we can always grind this flat, but if this is warped the whole way down, we're going to have to grind a shit ton off each side so that this straightens back up in the center. I'm not the greatest teacher, alright? But so we want to keep that edge, the blade edge, as straight and as centered as possible to the spine. So if we hammer too much on one side, it'll start warping. So you'll get little, it looks like wriggly lines, because it happens quite a lot. If you get your profile too thin, like if your edge is too thin when you go to quench it, it'll wrinkle. I've had that happen a couple of times, it's not much fun. side. I want to fucking smash that up. We'll have to be constantly chasing this the whole way, so there will be a lot of reworking, like going back over things we've already done, that's for sure. I'll probably take this bastard, give him a quick go over and then chase it with the smaller hammer. This is pretty basic kind of thing. What we're doing is just angling it ever so slightly. Instead of holding it flat like we normally would, we're tilting it up so that it creates an angle, and we're flipping him back and forth. I mean, we could do it over the horn, but I don't have the skills for that. Not yet, at least. I'm practicing, but I do that off camera because, I mean, I make a dick of myself enough on camera, so. See how thick this is here to how thin that is, or maybe you can't, but there's a good mil or 2 mil taken out of it straight up, and you can see a definite angled bevel there. It's not too crazy. I mean, it's only got like a 2.5, 3 mil spine, so we don't need this thing to be some crazy aggressive 5 mil spine. It's not going to be designed for hacking into like pig skulls or anything. I mean, if I had a pig skull, I'd definitely be hacking into it. Or actually, no, I wouldn't. I'd sun bleach that bastard and do some scroll work, maybe a little bit of nice work on the skull with the Dremel, and I'd wear that thing as a helmet because why the fuck not? Buy some antlers off my cousin and block them on top, a couple of big tusks down the bastard. There'll be some fucking voodoo witch doctor, that would be great. And no, that's not cultural appropriation. I mean, why, you ask? Because I fucking said so, that's why. And if you don't agree with me, fight me. Keep this as flat and as straight as possible, so there will be a couple of warps and that, especially like hot steel and cold steel, it tends to warp the lines because of thermodynamics, of course. Hot things expanding, cold things contracting, all that kind of stuff. How are we doing? Yeah, we'll move down a little bit. Where's our flame at? There we go. Get him a bit deeper in there. That's what she said. So I know there's someone in the comments that's going to say that, so I thought I'd get in there first. That's what she said. Yeah. That's why we were losing so much heat. Comes straight out the side there. Is it too much flame coming out of the side? Yeah. And the tiniest little bit of fucking breeze just hits this thing. One problem with this design, now all the heat comes straight out of this fucking hand. Well, this glove will work for the first little couple of inches of it. Now that it's here, holding this bastard is going to be hot. Because we got flames coming out to there. a bit of mass out of this thing from the shear oxidization because of how much surface area there is. Not too worried about it. I mean, quite a lot of it's going to have to come off anyway. I mean, this isn't going to be some beautiful fucking museum piece, that's for sure. This is more the fact of, well, I wanted to, and that's why. Yeah, there's not much reasoning that goes into my logic, that's for sure. I'm going to get rid of this jumper now, it's fucking warm. It was cold and fucking blowy before, now it's kind of died off and this bastard's getting the heat up. It's one good thing about winter with my own little fireplace. Although it would be better if I had this thing completely shielded off, that'd be fucking great. Need a good proper workshop in this area, that's all. I can feel the heat in that handle now. It's starting to curve ever so slightly. Straight as possible. Gonna have to get our tongs now. Oh, actually, put our water bottle. Not the coolest thing to hold on to, that's for sure. Yeah, we'll have to get the tongs. Heat in it, that's for sure. Getting down there. Now we've got a bit more pinch up here. Make that center part. It's going alright. Our warp's not too bad, so we might just get by with just lopping that top little portion off. Either that or we can straighten the bottom and kick him down, give him a good whack. Anyway, we'll figure it out. Got a bevel. It's developing nice on this side, I've just got to pinch him down one side and then we'll go from there. Face a bit too close. Slide a bit of heat in them. I might have just burnt one of my fucking eyebrows off. It's alright, it's not going to make me look any uglier. It's a hard task in itself.
Go away.
You want a piece of fucking molten steel, dickhead? We'll fix it all. Why? Because we fucking have to. I know I said I'm mediocre, but I'm not that bad that I'll just ignore that shit. Don't. Go and stop.
Shut up!
That's an else. Straightened again. There's that last little bit there, and then we can define the bevels with a smaller hammer. He's too cool. Just like me, way too fucking cool. Get right fucking there. Settle. Hold that fucking seal. If you can guess the song by Steve Earle, I'll give you a little heart in the comments. Not that anyone gives a fuck, but... You can see that curve that started to develop. So we're stretching one side and the other staying static, essentially. And purely because of that, this essentially gets squeezed or that gets stretched, so you end up with like a fucking banana. Tip of that fucking bottle. Oh well, doesn't matter. Clearly a higher ridge right there, but I think that's the only problem. A little fucking right there. Refilling water bottle now. I love negative pressure, matey. And now we've got a full water bottle. Yeah. Fucking magic that is. That is still searing hot. I mean, it's not melt your face off hot, but it's still fucking hot. That ridge she gone. Okay. If anyone ever tries to tell you that light blows with a small hammer don't work in smithing, they've clearly never done any smithing at all. Light blows are extremely effective at getting rid of high ridges. Alright, now let's get on to finalising that bevel. You don't want to see me do right on the same shit for an hour or two. Just go over, clean him up a little bit, and then we can take him on inside and hit the belt. I mean, we're not hitting the belt, but you know what I fucking mean. I know if a blacksmith ever does see this, like a qualified, accomplished blacksmith, they're probably going to be cringing and fucking screaming at the screen that I'm doing it wrong. But, well, this works for me, so... Again, it goes back into that whole self-taught from books and that. So unfortunately, I don't have someone here to go, oh, you're doing it wrong, this is how you do it. It doesn't really work that way when all you've got is a book written fucking 100-something years ago. It's a bit hard to ask you questions. It's hard to get the answers. Oi! What the fuck? Huh? Fucking dangerous here. You hate the sound of this fucking thing, but you always want to come near it. You're a fucking idiot, you know that? It's like a lawnmower. Hates the fucking sound, tries to attack it every time. It's fucking amazing he hasn't got his face sliced up yet. This isn't Frankie Sinatra. You don't listen to Frank Sinatra? What the fuck is wrong with you? But if you do, well, good on you for having taste in music. Yeah, that's right, I'm a grown man that still drinks juice boxes because fuck you, that's why. Fuck off over there. Fuck me. I keep telling you the most important thing is not to chase things, but it seems like all I fucking do here is just chase things. And it's all small corrections that need to be done, so... time you're going to spend working a piece of steel is doing something big and heavy and then following through with something small, hence the smaller hammer. Do a rough shape, a finalised shape, grind, a rough grind, final grind. You should be bringing it down to pretty much its final shape, quenching, tempering, and then you're doing that last little bit to bring it to polish, bring the edge right down to zero shadow so that you can't see a glint of light off the actual edge itself. It should be very, very small so that you're literally doing your last step right before you're polishing it on a stone and stropping it. And yeah, you should strop every knife you got. Got to get rid of those burrs. And the burrs help to cut things, but they don't last. And it's, for high carbon steel like this, it creates little pockets where rust gets in. Big problem. It just feels unsightly when you're running a fingernail down it. Or at least that's what I think anyway. Especially with like a couple of the kitchen knives I've done. Not the greatest, I'm not a fucking expert after all, but it's pinching now. We got a little bit more to do right here, but that portion is correct. We've got that grind him off. Just gonna hammer that tip back down a little bit. Yeah, he's got a little bit of a swoop to him now. Probably will end up over the horn, giving it a good whack, just to straighten that spine out a bit. And it would literally just be a drop, essentially like a swing. We're not going to be hammering it over the horn. It doesn't need to be hammered over. That'll end up like twisting it like a fucking corkscrew, or it'll just buckle one side in because essentially of how thin. You got a nice thick spine, about 3 mils, and then you got the edge itself is very thin, so that will end up just curling over ever so slightly. So try and heat the spine portion more than the blade. Give it a good whack, straighten him, probably another whack and straighten it from there. We should get away with it. It doesn't need to be perfect. Everything can be fixed with the angle grinder or the belt grinder. As I said before, I could have just taken a length of leafspring, cut that tip just clean off with the angle grinder, and then just hit it on the belt, just bevel it right to the top, right to the bottom. Cut in a section of the handle, throw some scales on it, or quench, throw some scales on it. Nobody out there would have known the difference unless I had shown the process. And stock removal is a legitimate way of creating knives. It's just, well, I prefer heat and hammer. It just seems more blacksmithy, more manly, doing it with heat and a hammer than a router and grinder. I mean, I still use those tools. Don't get me wrong, I abuse them quite a bit, but it's more the fact of what the majority of the work forging is forging. Or at least I think the majority of the work should be done through forging. Hence why I'm hammering out a bevel right now. would have been more than easy to just take it inside on the belt grinder and then just grind it even. It probably would have got a better response internet-wise, I think. It would have looked a lot cleaner. I mean, I don't have any guides or nothing, but after enough work on a belt grinder, you kind of realise like the feel of things and how shit works and how it changes, what the kind of angles are that you need to achieve what you want. Straighten that handle up a little bit, start to kick off because no heat in him. I can get hot now. Soak into that handle a little bit. Should help relax that bend ever so slightly. Yeah. Still got a small problem there, but there we go. That's that going. A little bit of a warp there. Do it a bit more on this side. Well, don't want to break any bricks. They're not expensive, they're just, it's a pain in the ass to buy new ones. They take so long to get in. I've already fucking cracked that one there. That's why he sits at the back and he doesn't move. You might be wondering to yourself, how does hammering in a bevel bring it to like a V shape? Essentially what we're doing, because we go from when you're hammering flat, it hammers out flat. When you're angling like this, you essentially get one piece that kicks ever so slightly sideways. Essentially have like flat, and then this bit is on the anvil here. Because of that, when you flip him over, it'll get the opposite end. And doing it both ways, you end up with a kind of flat portion and this kind of wedge shape going on. Just oscillating it from side to side, you essentially start working out a nice like chamfer, V-chamfer. So it's not an exact science, but it will bring it down to a taper, which is exactly what you want. You want it to taper from one end to the other. Nice and orange. Get rid of that fucking... It's there because of the fucking... You know what? I think we'll go for... You'll see how fast that heat leaves that edge, because how thick it is compared to these versions, as well as this, which is about 5mm thick. I think we'll go for that spine section of it more. Hammering, cracking it over. All of that burnt hair there now. thing over a horn. If you don't heat the thing completely, you'll only bend it in that one heated area. And it seems pretty simple, but if you want to straighten something completely, you want to heat the whole thing, and then it's over this heavy ridge, like the wider part of the horn. Of course, the sharper the bend, the narrower the horn section, as well as the sharper the bend, the more localized the heat you want. That's why gas forges aren't the greatest. They're really good for heating a whole piece or large sections, whereas a coal forge with its very localized heat, you can heat like small sections, like inches at a time, which is amazing. This is the one big advantage. Other than that, you need to constantly be cleaning. Oi! Be constantly cleaning out boards before it starts to choke up. You need to be pulling clinkers out of the fire. This, you can literally just set gas flow, gas pressure, airflow, and then just leave it. You don't need to monitor it. You don't need to worry about doing anything. Right, we've got a nice... it's wrinkling over. Yeah, if I can do it. We can grind. We'll be grinding a portion of this off because it's not exactly the greatest. We might be able to bust those bubbles. Heat him again, I think. Yeah. So might take a few heats, a few more heats than I thought. Yeah, I'm addicted, I know. Don't touch hot steel. Oh yeah, that burnt skin. It's got a nice white line. Nice white line just there, and one on there that burnt the platelets under the skin. That's what happens when you boil your blood cells. It's not a good feeling. It happens incredibly fast. If you've ever had like a radiant burn from like touching a radiator or a heating element on a stove or something, you know exactly what I mean. This is not like a direct fire burn, it's just incredibly painful and incredibly hot all of a sudden. You get like throbbing pain. Won't be straightening. What we can do is hammer this back spine a little bit, especially in this section, so it'll stretch it out just that little bit. I like how it just destroyed me freaking edge metal there. Yeah, it's packed it up a little bit. We might have to try and get some of this shit off it. Yeah, a better fucking brush, that's for sure. Yeah. I think we've got... Oi! Yeah, we might be able to get away with it. Hammer it on the top. that fucking burner nozzle, which is probably not the best thing to do. I know this, but it's the best way you can localize it. Other than that, it's pulling like sections of heat. You can use these blocks to create like buffers inside the forge barrel itself. So you create like a cold spot and a hot spot where the gas has to move around it. You can move the blade in front of one of those hot spots, keep the portion you want cooler behind the block, and it's not the greatest, but it can work. Other than that, you can wrap the blade with certain materials that are like things like asbestos cloth that resist heat. You can use like don't put the fucking asbestos in a forge barrel. Don't be an idiot. You can use like fire retardant materials that work great at resisting heat. Yeah, let's straighten that out a bit. So you can square it up our base a bit. Yeah, okay, that'll work great then. Straighten that tip just quickly, because I want to bring that tip right back down. So instead of it being a clip point, like a stupid Bowie kind of clip, essentially what has happened is, because the stretcher board has curved that tip up, so instead of it being a nice straight line, it's got this little flick at the end, and it works out on some knives. It's just not what I want on this knife. It's not what's historical on this knife. And granted, there are, like, from what, I think it's 5th century to the 14th century, it was like 30-something different designs of Seax knives, or Seax blades. I think it's Saxons. There are many different historical depictions of them. They're quite ornate as well, which I am amazed about. So the Saxons were masters of very intricate, very ornate designs. Also their Damascus, oh, amazing. They had some beautiful pattern steel. I mean, I don't mean just like layering, like 13 layers. I mean like actual like braided steel with iron core and cross it. Some beautiful. I'll have to show you. I'll put some in the video right here. I'll show a couple of like historical depictions of what they can do, and it is amazing. Like their craft was on point. One thing doing this job has taught me is never underestimate the role that people hundreds of years ago had in smithing. Like the sheer amount of skill in smithing today is nothing of what it used to be. Like just take armourers for like argument's sake. An armourer today is nothing of what an armourer was back in the 1500s, 1400s. They have no skill compared to them at all. Like that's not discounting or discrediting current armourers. There are some very good armourers out there, that's for sure. I've seen quite a bit. Just Google YouTube for it, or TikTok, hell. There is some amazing work out there. But compared to smiths from yesteryear, essentially, yeah, no, there is no current smith, blacksmith, armourer, even furriers making horseshoes. They're probably the closest to what they originally were. And even them, there's very little skill of what originally remained. There we go, now we straighten that tip up. And we'll need a last little bit of work on the grinder, that's not a problem though. Flatten out the edge a little bit. Shame, but last section, straighten up, and then we'll let it normalise a little bit more. We'll let it normalise in the forge barrel as it cools down. It'll take about an hour or two. I don't need to anneal it. I mean, I can anneal it. It'll just be constantly monitoring it and slowly turning down the heat. But I don't have 16 hours to waste. I don't have the gas to waste on that. Plus I don't have like $3,000 for an electric fucking knife oven. Doesn't matter. It'll be soft enough that I can grind it with like the heavy belts. We'll be doing our first grind will be doing like correcting just those small warps and small ridges. We'll be doing that with like a 50 grit, very rough belt. Just trying to get that profile cleaned up, flattened ever so slightly. Just take those heavy ridges out. Because I don't mind having the dips, like the hammer marks. And a lot of people see that as poor work, and I mean, it kind of is, but for something like this that is like if you've seen the bill book I done, you can see how many ridges and hammer wells and all that in there. I mean, that it doesn't matter. That's a tool that's going to be smashing into rocks and everything else. So it really doesn't matter that it's got all those tool marks essentially. Internet doesn't seem to like that kind of distinct industrial broad kind of look of leaving tool marks and scores from like files and things like that in it. I know the internet doesn't like that. Reddit absolutely abhors that kind of stuff. I, on the other hand, quite enjoy that. It shows proof of what it is as like hand-worked goods. It's very hard to fake those kind of marks. Is it witness marks, I guess you could call it? When you crash a car, they're called witness marks. It's very hard to fake them from like a stock removal kind of way. Like if you're literally just on a router and shaving sections off, like go into your kitchen, grab any kitchen knife you've got that's bought from like a supermarket, and you'll see the edge itself has these small little marks. What that is, it's a router. It's a tip that spins at very high speeds, and it just nibbles sections off. and you will get these slight ridges because they don't hand finish them on or anything. It's not distinctly a bad thing, it's just that, well, that is the mark of a low quality mass produced knife. I'm pretty sure like my worst knife that I ever made is better than like one of them knives that I own. Like I have a lot of those knives, and part of the point of me making my own is to replace those. I think that's going to be about it. Straighten this ever so slightly. Just thicken up a little bit at the spine, just this front portion where I've been hammering it. It's the nature of compressing material, it bunches up. Foul strikes there. How are we looking there? It's pretty damn good, I'd say. It ain't perfect, but I mean it never was going to be, but still pretty damn good, I'd say. Turn him off. I'll keep that. I don't want to rub you because I know you're going to be fucking hot. Need to keep. There we go. And we're going to close that up, close you up. Tips there, edges there. Yeah, should good. Keep that there. Because I'll have to do, if I ever get good at doing a bit of Damascus or some layered steel, I'll have to take all my cheap shitty knives in there, break cut handles off them. I'll do a knife, special knife, made solely out of my junk knives in there. Because once I've replaced all of them, I'll definitely try that. That's for sure. It's on my list. I mean, there's a lot of things on my list. You've seen the book. There's tons of shit in there. We'll eventually get to these things. It's not like I'm quitting anytime soon. But that's that. As well. That's it. Get some pressure on. Last bit of heat out of him. That's it.